We're starting a new series called Tailgate Talk here at Civil Mesh. And what we're going to try to do is talk about underutilized technology, popular technologies, and just general construction talk.
Hi, my name is Justin Daw. I'm on the Compact Solutions sales team for TopCon, and I help people implement layout and machine control solutions for compact machines.
Hi, I'm Luke Williams, president of Civil Mesh Pro. I oversee the operations that help people apply construction technology to your average construction site.
You were saying like how small is too small?
Yeah, how small is too small. So, you got a mini hoe. How big is too big? Let's just talk about the spectrum of machines, specifically excavators, that can get some benefit out of a positioning system and it not be overkill.
You and I go back quite a long ways. In a previous life, we worked on a long stick excavator that was doing dredge work down in the Port of Houston. And I think it was like 90 foot of stick and boom.
Yeah, it was like 100 foot, 50 foot stick, 50 foot boom.
Yeah. It was
digging in 50 foot of water.
Standard TopCon excavator system there. So we can run our system underwater for that kind of application. Huge applications for digging ponds.
Or mines,
Yeah, and you were telling me about excavating out streets, which I think that's a huge thing that I don't hear about a whole lot. But now we're starting to see more guys doing grade beams for concrete, digging out utilities, underground utilities, that kind of thing. So how big's too big? How small's too small? All the sensors and everything that go on the machine are all the same, whether it's a massive machine or a small one. So MC Mobile excavator system on like a Cat 300 series. And I've seen them on small, landscaping,
35G,
Sannies, and things that you would not think somebody would invest the time in.
Yeah.
They're seeing returns on it so quickly that they're investing.
It depends on how much grade you're cutting. You might not see much benefit of extending a sidewalk on a driveway, but let's say laying out something new to some specific design standard that's like on a plan design or something like that. When you're laying out and positioning a new design, this is where the layout systems will come into play and actually help you receive a lot more efficiency.
Oftentimes my guys own the machine. They're on it 2 or 3 times a week, if not every day. They've got a grade checker that works with them all the time, who's out on the ground, he's usually using a laser to go check grade, So he's having to run his machine with door open all summer long in the heat. So what we're able to do then is go look at his project and say, okay, like what kind of stuff are you giving before you get out there, right? Do you have a CAD? Are you given a PDF and all the kind of stuff that they could turn over to somebody like y'all? You could turn them over a turnkey model that they could just throw in a machine and go cut grade, right?
Yeah.
Modeling versus DIY, right? Let's say you've got curb and gutter poured, and I've already got all that existing, and then I've got my catch basins that my underground guys came and laid. There's almost no modeler in the world who could give you an accurate model that would give you the dirt grade between that poured curb and that catch basin. They weren't put in by the same folks. We can all say that we hope they're on grade where they're supposed to be.
There will be need another collection.
At the end of the day, right? You go take your rover and you go shoot in that existing curb, then you go shoot in your catch basin, and then either send it to y'all if it has complicated drops and stuff like that where they really need to direct water flow. But for my purposes, most of the time, I just need to make sure it's not holding water, right? So catch my curbs, catch my catch basins, and build a surface that'll just have everything fall right to those catch basins, right?
Once again, you got your scope by scope. You can do that with the DIY software. And let's say you got acres and acres of catch basins and stuff. At that point, they're not going to be exactly what the plans said they're going to be. There's going to be about an inch of play in there. So you're going to have to go back and collect that data. Those different applications will cause you to either decide to have a modeling service or just do it. Let's say you're an owner operator. You might end up just doing the DIY stuff. At the end of the day, it's all about money. These guys are digging the pond because they're making money. You buy a GPS system or a robotic system for your excavator to make more money. So where exactly does it make you more money?
So your grade checker that's on the ground, right? What if you didn't need him and you had everything, including the beeps? Like we can even turn on the beeps like your laser makes right in the cab. I was like, if I could turn all that on for you and you could close the doors, leave your AC on, listen to some radio, enjoy your day. I was like, how much better would that be if you didn't have to worry about that guy? He goes, well, yeah, but that's my brother-in-law. I can't get rid of him. I was like, okay, how about this? Right now, it's hard to find people that know what they're doing and are good at this job, right? We don't want to get rid of people on a job site. We want to use them better and be more efficient with how we use it, right? If the owner's still in the cab a couple days a week, now he can maybe take the guy who's checking grade, throw him in the cab. Now he gets the AC, he gets the radio.
The owner can go grow the business.
He's on the next job, estimating, or he's out there getting payroll done for that week, or he's whatever it may be, right? That's where the real money comes in, is figuring out where right now we're using labor to solve our problem, where we could be using technology to solve our problem.
There's some guys that are very efficient old school, but it's very hard to find guys that are as efficient as the technology that we have nowadays. I remember my dad used to tell me, I grew up doing this stuff with my dad. And so my dad used to say, boy, you wouldn't be as good as me if it wasn't for that technology. And I said, I know.
100% true. 100% true.
So, man, moving on from, a pond application, let's talk about cutting streets. Cutting streets, you technically could have one less dozer on the job and one less grade checker. So, like, when you're cutting your street, and you want to make sure that you got at least a 2-foot cut, make sure you got some cut to cut. You don't want to be messing around with 6 inches. But then again, it might allow you to be more efficient in the smaller application. But regardless of whatever you're cutting on the streets, it'll allow you to cut and not have a grade checker, and you don't have to have that dozer there immediately cutting it and making sure that you're not leaving too much cut behind.
Or somebody coming and setting offsets for you ahead of time, right? Like you can bypass all that because I've got the line on my screen where I can actually figure out where my tooth's going to be, set it down where it needs to go.
You don't have to dodge the stakes.
Nope.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Usually the stakes have to get restaked after they go and cut streets because, man, you can't properly grade the banks when you got stakes all over the place and stuff. You already got to watch out for all your pipe leads, your water and sanitary leads and your manholes and all that. Keep the stakes out of the way, man. We don't need those stakes.
Wood's not
we'll
free,
put them
right?
at the end just to double check. What about the micro applications? How would you save on, for example, digging a septic system or a pad?
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I was a concrete layout guy. So one of the first places I always go is digging grade beams, right? So if you're out there and you got to go set batter boards and you're pulling string lines, if you've ever been on a pretty good sized job that's got a lot of batter boards, a lot of string lines, it's, you watch the sales guy with the shiny hard hat pull up out there and he's tripping over lines and thinking he's ruining everything, and the guys start yelling at him and then just snicker and put it back, where it came from. Yeah. But I mean, if you can avoid the days and days and days of setting batter boards and the number of guys that it takes to go do that, and my machine knows exactly where my teeth are, right? Everybody wants to talk about like my depth of my excavator is what everybody thinks is like what we're trying to work
vertical
for, right?
Only.
Yeah, because we're thinking about the rotating laser, right? My rotating laser is giving me my depth. That's what I'm trying to get to. But if I don't have to have somebody to tell me where I need to put the teeth to begin with, or how to go line up on that trench, so that way
see it on your screen.
Yeah, we can actually line up our crosshairs, pull a line, and then actually know as we back up, we're going to be in line with that trench the whole way, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so
layout.
Concrete, lay out with your machine essentially. Do as-built with your machine.
Underwater dredging, we briefly talked about that, but man, there would be major surveying work that goes into cutting. I think it was 250,000 yards in that application that we were talking about with. It was McCarthy Builders back in like 2015 or something, 2014, and they did 250,000 yards out of the water, and they were as-builting it as they went. So underneath, they had a map of the water, underneath the water, of what was left to dig, and they didn't have to go out there and go like, I wonder where I stopped digging. Yeah, they could see it on the map.
Try to rotate a machine that big and then come back to underwater exactly where you were before, right? It's tough. Like it's you can't really do it without it. Like,
so they probably saved hundreds of $1,000s in surveying over that extent, that job, because I think it took them 6 months to a year to cut out that 250,000 yards. There's plenty of money to be made.
Well, and you mentioned underground utilities. Another area where not to get too doom and gloom, but safety is huge. And if you can, the fewer times you got to get down in that hole, the fewer guys you got to get up and down out of there, the safer your job site's going to be. The more guys go home at night safe every night, and that's really at the end of the day, that's a huge cost, right?
That's probably one of the biggest.
Yeah, when people get hurt, that's a huge cost, right? So
for sure.
And not just financial cost, but like that's human lives, right? That's a big deal. So
yeah.